So it's time for movie reviews on Pure 24/7 Radio. My name's Nathan Thomas, and I'm delighted to welcome our movie expert, in-house movie expert, Andy Godfrey. How are you, Andy?
I've had an interesting week, Nathan. I've been in and out of hospital, having a few tests for a few pains that have been happening, but I'm okay. Still managed to squeeze in a couple of trips to the cinema,
Yeah.
so that was good therapy. And you've had a busy week as well. I know your first visit to London, place I know and love well. So yes, it's been an interesting week. I'm okay. I'm okay.
All right. I'm glad to hear it after all that's happened. A bit of a concern, but glad that you're doing well today.
Thank you. Yeah, very much so. Just people obviously on the radio want me to see this. I just showed Nathan my arm, which is covered in bruises from all the blood tests I've had this week. But
Yeah.
there are people worse off than me, and there are people in greater need than me. I'm alive. I'm rejoicing, thanking the Lord. I managed to sit twice through two films this week in a lovely air-conditioned cinema.
Oh, nice.
So that was great. We can talk about those as well. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about today, actually.
Yeah, indeed we have. And of course, yeah, you were saying about London. My very first time in London, I thought it was quite a thrill, really. It's just what
Oh,
impresses me is the sheer, well, I think you were put it well actually just off air a minute ago. It's so condensed,
yeah.
there's so much in one very small area.
And did you
It's
see
yeah.
any famous movie locations?
Do you know, I did see the Tower of London, where I
Great.
know
And
they've shot a couple of things.
was it Andy
And
B told me you saw MI5
we
headquarters
did see MI5, which of course does appear in the Bond films,
in
doesn't it?
front? Yeah, it gets blown up in
Yeah, it looked okay to me.
Skyfall. That building actually gets blown up in Skyfall.
Yes, yeah, well, it looked okay to me. They've obviously fixed it up since then.
Yeah, they got the builders in and
Yeah.
did a quick repair job. But yeah, no, but I mean, everywhere you go in London, there are film locations, and
Hmm.
there was a film that came out just after COVID or during COVID called Last Night in Soho, which is not the kind of film that might indicate it is. But I walked around all the locations, and there's a pub that features in that film, and I went into the pub and had a drink in the pub. I love visiting movie locations, and London is just crammed full. Everywhere you look, there something has been filmed somewhere.
Yeah.
And that last week we were talking about a film called 28 Days Later,
Hmm.
where I said, that they filmed very early on a Sunday morning in central London, and you will now get a picture of what this was like for them. They held back the traffic so that they could film a guy walking around deserted streets around Piccadilly and Westminster Bridge and
Yeah.
up the Embankment and all around there, And everywhere you look in London, there are film locations. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so glad that you'll be up there again.
I'm sure, yeah. Well, brilliant. It's good to see you again. And as
Yeah.
you said, lots to talk about. You said you have some movie news for us to start
Yeah,
with.
so let's talk about some movie news. So first of all, and let's do this before I forget, because I'm an old man and my brain's going a bit. I wanted to mention that the film King of Kings, which we highlighted back at Easter, and which was highlighted in the Pure Media magazine, this film is now available to rent. It will cost you 9.99. But if you're looking for a film to watch this weekend, I mean, a friend of mine has got a barbecue in the garden. He's got like an outdoor cinema. He's got a projector and a big screen outside, and he
Wow.
has people around and family around, and they watch films. If you're looking for a film to watch with all the family this weekend, and you're prepared to spend 9.99, which is probably less than the price of a cinema ticket, um, you can now see King of Kings. This is the one with Kenneth Branagh and Ben Kingsley and Pierce Bronson. It tells the Jesus story, Charles Dickens telling the Jesus story to his son. Really, really fantastic animated gospel film. The Jesus story is beautifully told. It's a really wonderful film. And that is now available to rent. I'm not quite sure when it's coming out on Blu-ray or DVD, but it is now available to rent. So people might want to actually see that. If you missed it at the cinema, people might want to see that at home, and you might want to. It might be something you might want to watch, as I say, with the kids. Get a bowl of popcorn and whatever. It's a really good U certificate family film telling the story of Jesus really faithfully, really beautifully, really well. And I think I told you the story fairly close to where you were in London. There are some screening rooms where they show us journalists films. and there's a tiny little screening room, and I went in there, and I was sat next to a girl from the Odeon Cinema, and she was really impressed. She said, "Yeah, I'm going to tell Odeon Cinemas," and the film did really, really well at the box office here. Did even better in America. I got to number 2 in America. I got to number 9 here, but it is available to rent. So I really want to mention that before. I meant to mention it last week, and time ran out, and my brain gets addled. So I wanted to mention that. That's a bit of movie news that is out. King of Kings is available to stream. Maybe you want to get your Sunday school round. Maybe you want to get your youth group round. Maybe you want to get your church round. Watch it. If somebody's got a big screen TV, watch it. So maybe it's got somebody, say, got a screen in their garden. This film is now available to rent. Perfect opportunity for evangelism. Perfect opportunity for outreach to show King of Kings. And it's a brilliant film. And we know from the article, it's in Pure Media magazine, let's keep plugging it, that, Pierce Bronson said it gave him a whole new perspective on the Jesus story playing Pilate.
Yeah.
And so really, really good film. So that's the first bit of movie news that I wanted to bring this week. Second bit of movie news, which really excited me because we didn't get a chance to talk about this. When we were off air a couple of weeks ago, you were climbing mountains. I was at a rock concert.
Wow, really?
So I went to see my hero, Bruce Springsteen, and the E Street Band in concert in Liverpool. I drove from Milton Keynes to Liverpool. Didn't get back after the concert till 2:20 in the morning. But Bruce was on stage with the band doing all the hits, Dancing in the Dark and Born to Run and Glory Days and those. And we play a lot of Bruce, I know, you play it for me, really. He didn't do Waiting on a Sunny Day, which I was hoping he was going to do. But he didn't do Waiting on a Sunny Day. But there is a new film coming out in the autumn called Deliver Me from Nowhere. And this is going to be the Bruce Springsteen story. So obviously I'm very excited about this as a massive Bruce Springsteen fan.
Of course.
And we got to see the trailer for the first time this week. So the trailer looks really good. Basically, in 1982, Bruce was sort of getting famous. He wasn't at the height of his fame, wasn't quite the finished rock star. Yeah, that would happen in 1984 when Born in the USA came out. In 1982, he released a solo album called Nebraska. And it was a very introspective album. It was folk music. It's a really good album, but it's an album about growing up in a small town and having ambitions and wanting to escape and just basically dreaming of a better life. And the film centers on the recording of this album and Bruce's sort of time round about that. So Springsteen was brought up in a very, very, very Catholic home, devout Catholics. And he said that in later life, the religiosity of the Catholic faith, the practices, it wasn't so much the faith itself. It was the practices of having to go to mass and church 3 times a day and all the rest of it, and praying to Mary. And so that kind of put him off religion. Bruce has a faith in God. There is no doubt about that. And that is reflected in some of his songs. If you listen to, there's a very powerful song called The Power of Prayer on an album called Letter to You. There's a couple of songs that reference Jesus on the Wrecking Ball album. So this film shows Bruce's upbringing. Obviously, we've only seen the trailer. It would seem to focus on his relationship with his father, which we know from Bruce's biography was very, very fractious. But I got really excited because the trailer for this dropped this week. And I thought, wow, that looks really, really good. So obviously, as I say, being a massive, huge Bruce, I mean, this was, the 5th time I'd seen Bruce Springsteen in concert. And I just love the guy. I do. And he is my hero and my favourite rock star. So to be at Anfield, and what happened that night as well was we had Sir Paul McCartney come on stage. And Bruce said, Bruce got into rock music because of the Beatles. When he was a young man, the Beatles came to America, and he was so inspired by the Beatles that he wanted to just pick up a guitar and play. So to see him on stage in Liverpool, where the Beatles were from, playing with Paul McCartney, it was just an incredible moment. It was just one of the greatest moments of my life. Genuinely, honestly, I got to see 2 of my heroes because I'm a big Beatles fan as well. So anyway, that's coming out. Deliver Me for Nowhere, but we'll review it when it comes out in the autumn. But let's not jump the gun. The trailer Looks good. Another trailer that is out this week that has dropped is a trailer for the sequel to Wicked. So if you remember, Wicked was my favourite film last year. This is
Yep.
the story of the witches in The Wizard of Oz in Oz. I know what happens because I've seen the stage show. Looking at the trailer, there are bits and pieces that they've clearly thrown in. They've clearly extended the story. I was watching the trailer and thinking that didn't happen in the stage show. That never happened. So they've clearly added bits in. So trailers are, I get annoyed with trailers because trailers can show too much. And quite often people laugh at me, but my house here in Milton Keynes, I know that if I leave my house to see a film at the cinema, at the time the showing starts, I drive to the cinema, I pay to park the car, I go and get a drink. By the time I get into the cinema, I know the trailers are going to be halfway through. I've got it timed to perfection because it's normally from the start time to the time the film starts, about 20, 25 minutes.
Wow.
So I've got this time down to perfection. So I like to miss the trailers. However, I did look at the trailer for Wicked and it looks good. Another trailer that drops this week. So they're teasing us.
Mhm.
And this is a film that's coming out next week, is a film for the new Superman movie. Now, I'm old enough to remember watching Christopher Reeves as Superman way, way, way back in the 70s, And I loved Superman, the movie, and I loved Superman 2. And he was the ultimate Superman. Yeah, he was my Superman. He was great. And when I heard that they were making a new Superman movie, I'll be honest with you, my heart sank. And I just thought, what's the point? We don't need another Superman movie. Actually, the trailer looks pretty good. So we'll see. So there you go. So that's a little bit of movie news for people. Things to look forward to. New Bruce Springsteen movie, Wicked 2, Superman King of Kings, definitely is worth knowing that that's available. Shall we review a couple of new films?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay. So last week I said to you, if you remember, that I thought there was going to be a new number one at the box office.
Yes.
And guess what? For once in my life, I was right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So 28 years later, which we reviewed last week, is number one in the box office. It is a film about it's a third film in a series of films about a plague hitting Britain that turns people into zombies, and Britain has been declared a no-go zone area, and it's about the survivors of the plague. So that's gone straight in at number one, as I thought it would. However, what I forgot last week when we were talking, and this is to my shame, last Friday, Disney Pixar released a new film. Now, whenever Disney Pixar, particularly Pixar, used to release a new film, it used to be a big event. I remember when Toy Story came out, and I remember going to see Toy Story on my own. My excuse was, I'm going to check that it's okay for my daughter to watch. Actually, I wanted to see it. And I remember watching Toy Story and being dazzled. This was the first ever film that had been completely produced in a computer. And they said at the time, people said at the time that, for example, water would be impossible to accurately show on screen. And suddenly there was a scene set in a storm and we were watching rain falling. And I knew it was all being done by computer, but my heart was telling me this is real. So there used to be a big thing when Disney Pixar released a new movie, Inside Out, and Inside Out 2, and A Bug's Life, and films like that. These days, because of Disney streaming, because of Disney Plus, it's not such a big deal. And this one's rather slipped out under the radar a little bit. I'm surprised that Disney Pixar have released this new film, this new kids film now. Why they didn't wait till a few weeks to the school holidays, I don't really know, to be honest, but they've chosen to release it before the school holidays. So let me tell you about it. It's called Elio. Elio is a little boy who is an orphan. He lives with his auntie. She is a major in the US Army. Her job is to track satellites. So she works at a satellite tracking station. And one day, Elio sneaks into a meeting that she's been called to, and he hears reports that they have contacted aliens. So this Elio is a kids science fiction film. Okay, that's what it is. It's a science fiction film for children. He hears reports that aliens have been contacted, and he runs out onto the beach and he draws the circle and he writes in the sand, "Aliens, please abduct me," because he's lonely and his parents have died and he doesn't feel accepted. He doesn't feel he fits in. He thinks if aliens abduct me, then that would be great. Guess what? They do. And he is taken up to an intergalactic council where we meet a whole host of aliens. And one thing that Disney Pixar have never lacked is imagination. And these aliens, man alive. I mean, there is an octopus-like creature that reads your brains with its tentacles. They read your mind with its tentacles. There are worm-like creatures. There are flowers that talk. There are the baddie, and this intergalactic council are fighting an evil alien, a baddie, and he's got 6 eyes and 2 mouths. I mean, it's a brilliant work of design. Elio, this little boy, tells this intergalactic council in a moment of madness that he is the leader of Earth. And so therefore they send him to deal with their enemy. Right, you're the leader of this great planet. You can go and you can be our ambassador to deal with our enemy. I'm not going to tell you what happens after that. It's fun. It's the best Disney Pixar film in a while. The last Disney Pixar film I can really remember is a film called Luca, which came out a few years ago, which is again about a little boy who lived under the sea. So we've gone from under the sea to outer space. And the guys at Pixar, their imagination is terrific. I mean, it really is absolutely fantastic. And you think of films like Monsters, Inc., and you think of films like, as I say, Toy Story and Inside Out and so on. I love this, but I had a problem as an adult. And my problem as an adult was this. Quite often Disney Pixar deliberately, and this is well known, will throw in references to other films for you to spot. So I'm sat there watching this and thoroughly enjoying it, but suddenly I'm thinking, hang on a moment, that's a scene from Alien. They've lifted that from Doctor Who. That's Galaxy Quest. That's Star Trek. That's 2001: The Space Odyssey. And I ended up playing this game, Spot the Movie reference, and I found it was distracting me a little bit. And it is one of those films where so much is happening on screen that you almost wish you had a pause control, We could just pause it and look at what's happening in the background or run it in slow motion. And I think that will be the joy of it. It won't be long before it's on Disney Plus. I don't know how it's going to do, but it's coming at number 3 at the box office, which is very respectable these days for I mean, we know Lilo and Stitch did really well, of course. But it's very respectable. I thought that it was a really enjoyable kids family film. So if you're looking to get out of the heat this weekend, go and sit in a nice, cool, air-conditioned cinema and take the kids to watch Elio, the new Disney film. It is really, really enjoyable. It's great fun. I laughed a lot. I was amazed at the scope of the imagination on display. Really, that's what impressed me the most. There is a scene halfway through the credits. Disney Pixar became known for putting scenes halfway through the end credits and also one at the end. I stayed to the end. There is nothing at the end, but there is something halfway through the end credits. So just be aware of that.
Awesome.
Honestly, great. It is just, I think it's the perfect children's science fiction film.
Okay.
And for me as an adult, there was enough to keep me interested.
I suppose that's important, isn't it? When they include those references, it gets the whole family involved because you think, oh, I know that one. The kids might not understand it, but you saw it. And so it's actually entertaining everyone from the youngest to the oldest, which is just brilliant. And like, it's interesting what you say about how there's so much going on in a single scene. That is quite common in a Pixar film. They throw in all these references, they throw in all this action in the background, and you want to watch it again and again. So you'll see more and more of this humor in the background, these subtleties that are just so entertaining when you see them.
I think so. I think that's why they sell so many Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Because people are pausing them.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And so this is a prime example of that. And it really, there was a time when I thought I wondered about Pixar. They came out with a couple of films that were really duds. One of which was called The Last Dinosaur, which was really a very poor effort. But this is back. This is Disney Pixar back on form. I enjoyed it, and I've not read or seen many reviews, but I really think it's just one for the family.
Hmm,
You know,
brilliant.
and it's great to have that. So
Okay.
that's good. And then there's another new film out which we can review. So I'm watching the time. But let's just talk very quickly about this one because people will see the posters for this. You'll see this on every bus. You probably weren't aware of it, but you probably every bus you passed in London probably had a poster for this on the side. So this is a new Brad Pitt film. Now, whenever there's a new Brad Pitt film, again, it's a bit of an event. Okay. So Brad Pitt has made a new film called F1. Now, I don't know if you're into Formula One racing. I'm not.
Well, I don't know.
You,
I have seen it a few times. I quite enjoy F1. It's quite, I mean, there's different times. Obviously, there's rally, there's NASCAR, there's stuff like that. But F1 was probably the most exciting for me personally whenever I see it.
okay. Well, then you'll enjoy this. So this is from the director of Top Gun Maverick. And what the director of Top Gun Maverick did in Top Gun Maverick was he put us inside the planes, right?
Yes.
So what he does in this is he puts us inside the cars.
Wow.
Okay. So we see everything from the crashes, overtakes, racing from the driver's point of view. So we are in the car with the driver. The story is unbelievably predictable. From the second the film started to the second it ended, I was disappointed because I knew what was going to happen. So Brad Pitt is a uh, ex Formula One driver, okay, and the reason he's an ex Formula One driver is that when he was a young man, he was driving in Formula One and he had a crash and it put him off driving. Okay,
Hmm.
his best friend now owns a Formula One team that are not doing very well. Okay, and he comes to visit him and he says, "Look, I need you back. You're the best driver. You stopped driving too young. Okay, yes, you had a crash, but you stopped driving. I need you back in the car. I need you back in my team." And you know what's going to happen. You know that before the end of the movie's out, Brad Pitt's going to win a Grand Prix. I mean, that's not a spoiler. You just know that that's going to happen. Okay. So the thing with this film is not so much the story. You know he's going to fall in love with the female engineer the second he meets her. You know, there's going to be a romance. You know that the car's going to break down and here and then break down there, but then go on to win and so on. This is not so much about the story. This is about the action, and he does put us inside. At one point, he uses split screen, a bit like we're on Zoom right now, so we can see what's happening in two cars at once. Thing is, though, in 1967, there was a film came out starring James Gardner called Grand Prix, which used split screen. So this is not a new technique. This was a film about Formula One racing cars. Very, very similar. This is almost a kind of remake of a 1967 classic. I preferred the 1967 classic because the plotting wasn't so obvious. The plotting in the new one's obvious. That said, I had a friend who messaged me yesterday who'd been to see it and said, Andy, he'd read my review, said, Andy, you're absolutely right. It's as predictable as the sun rising, but boy, I had a great time. I had a fantastic time watching this. So I thought, okay, people are getting something out of this. People are enjoying this. I'm not an F1 fan. To me, cars going around. Now I've driven a car around a track. That was something else. I mean, I've driven a Lamborghini around a track at high speed. So that was fine. But watching, So anyway, I just wanted to mention this because it's a new Brad Pitt film.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. It might be number one next week. I have a sneaking suspicion it probably will be. It came out on Wednesday this week. They were doing this increasingly. They're releasing films on Wednesdays rather than Fridays. New Superman film's coming out next Wednesday. Um, it's the car stuff is great. The action's great, as you would expect from the director of Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah. So there you go. So those are the two new films out this week: Elio and F1, King of Kings. We've seen some trailers. Have we got time just to mention one film that's on TV?
Yes, just by the way, on that F1, I do remember seeing it a few times while in London on a few billboards and banners and buses. So yeah, I did see that one, and I've seen quite a few instances of it in London.
I told you would, because whenever there's a new Brad Pitt film, I mean,
Yeah, it's Brad Pitt, isn't it?
it's Brad Pitt. You know,
What more can you say?
there's a scene in the film where an elderly lady looks at him and goes, "That is one handsome man," and you sit there feeling insanely jealous,
All right.
um, but yeah, I mean, it is all over the place, and it costs a phenomenal amount of money
I can imagine.
film to make, so it does need to do well. Um, Tom Cruise was actually at the London premiere this week to support Brad Pitt in it.
Oh
And I
wow.
think Tom Cruise, who is known for liking to drive motorbikes particularly,
He seems to
but I
like
think
fast things, doesn't he?
he was in it, yeah. And stay for the end credits because you mentioned the other type of racing, NASCAR and Dakar and so on.
Mm.
There's some interesting shots over the end credits of big cars driving over sand dunes, racing each other,
Oh, very
uh,
cool.
which is quite spectacular. So
Yeah.
I actually found that almost as spectacular as the F1 stuff, to be honest.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Got a score by Hans Zimmer,
Oh, that's good.
one of the most prolific film composers we know, one of the greatest film composers of all time.
Mm.
Gladiator and all sorts of stuff. So if you like seeing cars racing around tracks and feeling that you're in a car racing around a track, and if you like Brad Pitt, you'll like this.
All right. Brilliant. So we do have time. Do you want to mention a few at home then?
Yeah, so just two, just three really. So Sonic 3 for the family, another one for the family. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is now available widely to watch at home. This is the third film based on the game. I've never played the game, but people who've played the game tell me the films are quite faithful to the game. It's quite entertaining. Jim Carrey is the villain and plays his own evil twin brother. Uh, and there's a lot of humor to be had in that. I thought that it was very entertaining family film. The other one I wanted to mention is on the BBC iPlayer is a film called Love and Mercy. So we were talking about Bruce Springsteen
Mm.
earlier, my great rock hero. Again, while we were off air or in the last couple of weeks, Brian Wilson died. Now, Brian Wilson was the leader, the power behind the Beach Boys. So, Surfing Safari and the Pet Sounds album, which Paul McCartney says is the greatest album ever made and inspired Sergeant Pepper's. Um, an incredible amount of songs, God Only Knows, and all the other great songs that the Beach Boys sang were written by Brian Wilson. And he developed that amazing sort of surfing sound, where they almost sing over each other and the harmonies.
Yeah.
Brian Wilson died has died since we last spoke. And there was a film that came out a few years ago called Love and Mercy. And it's a film in two parts. So the first part is about Brian Wilson's life in the 60s, when he was at the height of his fame. He was producing all this great music. The Beach Boys were rivaling the Beatles as the greatest group in the world. Paul McCartney was saying Brian Wilson's the greatest singer-songwriter ever. He was saying Paul McCartney's the greatest singer-songwriter ever. So they were rivaling each other. And the first part of the film really focuses in on that part of Brian Wilson's life, his creative genius, his the Beach Boys coming to fame and becoming mega superstars. But then in the late 60s, early 70s, Brian Wilson had a mental breakdown. And for many, many years, did not write, did not record, did not perform, and refused to perform live because of this total mental breakdown he had. And the second part of the film shows the breakdown. And you've got two different actors playing him. And it's a very, very distinctive sort of jump between the two parts of the film when you're watching it. The whole tone of the film, the style of the film changes
Interesting.
to reflect. The first part is sort of lively and bubbly and upbeat, and the second part of the film is really quite low, and it shows how he battles with his demons basically, and is dealing with depression and almost suicidal. Really, he just got so low. It's a fantastic film. The performances are brilliant. And I think for anybody interested in the history of pop, you're going to want to see, the Freddie Mercury movie. You want to see Rocket Man with Elton John. You want to see the Bob Dylan movie. You're going to want to see the Bruce Springsteen movie. You want to see the Whitney Houston movie. You should see this. You really should, because as I say, when he made the album Pet Sounds, which I was listening to the other day, I when I heard Brian Wilson die, I put Pet Sounds on and just listened to it. Fabulous album, absolutely brilliant. You should watch this. This is a really good biopic that gives you real insight into a genius who suffered for his brilliance by just literally becoming so depressed and there was almost a point where he reaches where he says, I can't do any more. I've reached the peak of my limit, and therefore life isn't worth living anymore. I've achieved all I can achieve. Excuse me, what can I do now? There's nowhere to go. I may as well die. There's nothing left for me to do. And he did pull through, and we know that in later years he performed actually at Glastonbury, which of course is on at the moment as we speak. And the Beach Boys came out of retirement and did some reunion concerts. One of my great regrets is I never saw the Beatles. One of my great regrets is I never saw the Beach Boys. So Love and Mercy is on the BBC iPlayer, and really, really good. Also, we'll mention one more just on the BBC iPlayer, a film called Hallelujah. And it's spelled with the A, not the H, Hallelujah. This is a lovely, lovely film. It's a bit of a comedy. It's set in North Yorkshire. It's about a community hospital that the government want to close down, and the locals fight to keep it open. And it stars Jennifer Saunders. She plays the matron of the hospital, fighting to keep this hospital open. It's on the BBC iPlayer. Really, really good film. Really loved it. It's called Hallelujah. One maybe for Sunday afternoon with a cup of tea and a bit of cake. So there you go. Those would be my films of the week, Nathan, and I hope that's okay.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Andy. Plenty to watch. There's a couple in cinema, obviously that new F1 one, which is interesting. You say it's quite predictable, but in some ways, you don't mind that so much if you just enjoy the action and the excitement of feeling like you're
If
actually
you
inside an
enjoy
F1.
the action and the excitement, I'm afraid I got rather cynical. I sat there thinking, oh, I can see where this is going and just get on with it, because it's over 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And at my stage of life, I don't know whether it's just me at 63, but any film at the moment that's over 2 hours long, I need an interval. And of course, it doesn't have one. And I just sat there and thought, oh, get on with it. I know what's coming. Get on with it. But as I say, I've had friends who have written to me, other film reviewers have said, Andy, you're absolutely right. It's completely and utterly predictable, but the action's really good. And as I say, from the director of Top Gun Maverick, he's not put us in a plane. He's put us in planes. Now he's put us in cars. And there is this moment where the screen splits so we can see what's happening in two cars at the same time as they're racing each other. And we get the driver's perspective. There's one very, very spectacular crash, I have to say. And it's interesting as well because the film is co-produced by Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, wow.
So Lewis Hamilton appears in the film in the background in some shots. And you're kind of looking out for him, really, and looking out for some of the other racing drivers that you might know. But Lewis Hamilton is in the film and he produced it. And so you do think, well, there is a degree of authenticity about this and it feels real. See it on a big screen, see it with a really good sound system. Because obviously you've got the sound of the cars whizzing by, the crashes and the smash bang wallops and all the rest of it. See it if you can. I saw it on what's called the Cineworld Super Screen, which is like their IMAX. Really, really good sound system. So that was good. It will be number one next week. And people will say that it will split people. I know it will split. There will be people like me who will say, if only you've done the action, but with a slightly different story, I would have loved this. But because the story was I was falling asleep and maybe even missing stuff, I don't know. There will be others who will say, no. All that matters is what you're seeing with the cars. And to an extent, that's true.
Okay. Well, very interesting. Thank you so much, Andy. It's been a pleasure as always. Great to see you again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Nathan. God bless you. God bless Pure. And God bless everybody listening.
The July issue of Pure Media, the magazine, comes out on Friday the 4th of July, with a plethora of amazing writers speaking about life, hope, money, technology and more. In our July edition, we take a focus on Matt McKay and his band Meet Your Maker, as well as shining a light on John Cox and so much more. The digital version is always freely available online. But did you know you can also enjoy the convenience of a printed subscription too? For all of this and more, just head over to www.puremediathemagazine.com. www.puremediathemagazine.com.